All right, troop listeners, we got a very special guest. As you all know, the last couple of weeks we've had a lot of guests come through here talking about Sharia law and the radical Islam. Well, we have a former Egyptian Muslim in the studio today. She's a Christian woman now. Her name is Nonie Darwish. She's been on CNN, Fox, telling her story. She has written many books. One of the most famous books is that they call me infidel because of how she turned, left the Islamic faith and became a Christian. I want to welcome Nonie Darwish to the Troop Zone. How you doing today?
Thank you, Carl. My pleasure.
So, Nonie, tell everybody about your story because, I've seen you on television and I've read your story and I've heard your story, but a lot of my listeners may not have heard your story. Tell everybody about your story and your flight and how you became where you are today.
Yeah, I was born and raised as a Muslim in Cairo, Egypt. I grew up in the Gaza Strip as a child in the 50s. And my father headed the Egyptian military intelligence in Gaza, and his mission was to destroy Israel and kill Jews. That was not just my father's mission, it was the mission of President Gamal Abdel Nasser at that time and all the Arab countries surrounding Israel. And my father was assassinated in Gaza in the conflict with Israel. Mm-hmm. I lived under Islamic law in Egypt. One thing a lot of people don't understand about Islamic Sharia law, Islamic law, is that it's not necessarily had to be applied by the police or by the government. Islamic law can be enforced by the regular man on the street. So that is the danger of the law. Mm-hmm. Vigilante street justice is allowed under Islamic law.
Okay.
And that's why there is lawlessness. For example, an apostate, they call a person who leaves Islam an apostate.
Right.
Apostasy must be punished by death. Mm-hmm. And the execution of the apostate does not necessarily have to happen by the state mm-hmm. or by the police. Anybody on the street can kill him.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people say, but Egypt, for instance, doesn't apply Sharia 100%. Well, the problem is it can be applied by the regular person on the street.
Anytime?
Such as killing apostates.
Right.
There is a law in Sharia that states that a Muslim can be forgiven for 3 murders. 1, killing an apostate. Number 2 is killing an adulterer, usually an adulteress, mm-hmm. not a man, a woman, and killing a highway robber. A Muslim who kills another Muslim will be have the death penalty. Uh-huh. However, a Muslim who kills a non-Muslim, such as a Christian or a Jew, will never get the death penalty. And that's why Christians in Egypt today are being killed and nobody is being punished. Nobody goes to jail for it.
Right. When you look at what's happening in Egypt right now, and you see, that they forced out Hosni Mubarak, and now initially the Muslim Brotherhood said they didn't want to be a part of the government. Now it's changed.
Yeah.
What is happening there? When we look at it on TV, because everyone doesn't understand the logistics of it. But you've been from Egypt and you have family there, I'm sure. Yeah. You understand what's going on. Explain to everyone what's going on there.
Well, I'm not very optimistic about Egypt. Mm-hmm. The problem is a lot of 75% of the Egyptian people, when asked, do you want to live under Islamic law? Because it is a sign of being a good Muslim to want to live under Islamic law. So 75% of the people say yes, because this is Allah's law. They really believe it. Mm-hmm. So if you choose Islamic law, that means it cannot be democracy anymore, mm-hmm. because Islamic law is totally against democracy, voting, and it's also all men are not created equal under Sharia law. Mm-hmm. Men and women have different laws to abide by. Muslim and non-Muslim also. So you're a second-class citizen if you're a woman, mm-hmm. and if you're a non-Muslim. And that's why if you go and see what's happening to the Jews and the Christians in the Muslim world, nobody knows what's going on in America. They are being persecuted, they're being killed, and the murderers and the killers go free.
Wow. No. Wow. So when you look at the seriousness of Sharia law, a lot of people don't understand that it's serious in the seriousness of Sharia law. Explain to my audience how serious the threat of Sharia law to America. When we see it's already taking place in certain states like Arizona, Texas, Michigan, New York, with the honor killings. You know, in Texas, man killed his 2 daughters because they were dating American boys.
Exactly.
Arizona, the man runs over his daughter because she was acting too American-like. Explain the serious implication of the threat of Sharia.
It's very serious. If the American people must understand something, if they really love their freedom, their democracy, however imperfect it is, it's the best system on earth. And what we need to do is to protect our system, because Sharia law is the most brutal, archaic law on earth. It allows beating of the wife. There is a law that is totally against democracy. And you know, Carl, the law states that a Muslim head of state can come to power through seizure of power. What does that mean? It means that a Muslim head of state is accepted after he assassinates the previous president, have a coup d'etat, and takes power. This is accepted under Islamic Sharia law. And this is totally...
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. That is actually in the mainstream books of Sharia. It's called Reliance of the Traveler, and I can give you the references if you want. It's
sure.
Yeah, because there are laws on how to bring about the Islamic head of state. A Muslim head of state who does not protect Sharia and prevent it from and does not rule by it, will become an apostate, and automatically he's an apostate who must be killed and removed from office. So a Muslim head of state has no option but to want to do jihad, to apply Sharia law, and to be against the West and against Israel. Any Muslim head of state who doesn't want to follow the Sharia law 100% becomes an apostate, and they get killed, and that's why Sadat was killed.
Wow. Well, are the women in the Islamic faith, do they really, I don't know how to put it, do they really enjoy being under that teaching, or are there some women who wants to come out but are afraid to come away from that?
Oh, absolutely. In 1919, when women got their freedom to vote in America,
Right.
the suffrage movement moved to Europe, and believe it or not, there was a feminist movement in that year in Egypt. Thank God we had the British in Egypt at that time, which protected them when they went into the Cairo railroad station, and they all threw away their burqas.
Right.
And they said, we want freedom. But they could not touch Sharia. They said it's misunderstood. That's the key is what is making everybody scared of speaking out. Is you cannot speak against Sharia. And Islam is not just a religion.
Right.
It is a political system.
It's a political system.
And it is a legal system.
Okay.
That can put you to death if you leave it.
Wow.
Islam will put to death anybody who leaves Islam. Islam will put to death anybody who criticizes Islam. Islam will put to death not just apostates, but blasphemy is illegal. If you criticize Islam, you have committed a crime. And there is a woman today in Pakistan who is on her death sentence. She's a mother of 5, and she's a Christian, and nobody talks about it in America. She's on death row now because she is accused of doing blasphemy against Islam, and she denies it. And she said, I didn't. Somebody heard her, and the minute they reported, they get a death sentence. And this is the situation. 2 men were killed in Pakistan trying to amend the laws that condemn people to death if they insult Islam. One of them was a governor, and one of them was some legal person. And very recently, a mayor or he was killed, shot to death, because he wanted to amend these archaic laws. So anybody in the Muslim countries who try to make a little change, there is always an underground Islamist group in every Muslim country that monitors not only the people, but the government. And everybody has to follow Sharia law. And if you don't follow Sharia law, you get assassinated either on the street or if he's a president, the president gets assassinated, or if it's a woman who has a sexual relations or she has a boyfriend, she gets murdered on the street and the police looks the other way because this is Sharia law. And this is what we're going to import in America if we don't open our eyes. America, wake up.
True listeners, you're listening to Nonie Darwish. She's a former Egyptian Muslim who's now a Christian. She's a women's activist. And she's also an author of a famous book, They Call Me Infidel. Nonie, do you believe our government has failed us in protecting us or making us aware of Sharia law?
Absolutely, you are right. Our government has failed us in many ways, not just about Sharia law. I visited Egypt right before 9/11, and I was shocked as to the level of anger and propaganda against America, hate speech, calls for jihad, calls for the great Satan. They were ridiculing the American ambassador, calling him names in the media, in the newspapers. And I was a journalist in Egypt, so I got all the papers, and all the papers were inspiring people to do jihad. And I felt scared for America. There are offices of CNN in the Middle East. There are offices of all the media in the Middle East. Nobody was reporting this hate speech against America and total lies and fabrications against America. I returned home to Los Angeles on September 10th at night. I woke up and I knew right away, this is Arab jihad. This is the hatred that I left behind. These are the Sharia lovers, and these are just jihadists. And it came true. The leader of the 19 terrorists was Muhammad Atta from Cairo, the same city I came from. And from an upper-class family. He was not poor, and he was not uneducated. But these people have been fed and, spoon-fed hatred and jihad since birth. I grew up thinking that the Jews had horns and they are subhuman, and I really thought they're evil people. I was told in school, don't take candy from a Jew. It could be he could be wanting to kill you because you're an Arab kid. So I grew up hating Jews. I was such an anti-Semite because that's all I learned. When you don't hear anything else but that, that's all your frame of reference. I never knew how bad it was until I came to America. And one day, when I started working in America, there was a sign in the corridor when I worked here, and the sign said, "This institution does not discriminate in employment due to gender, to race, to ethnic background, and religion." And I read this and reread it and reread it, and I was in awe. Is that true? Am I finally equal? Am I equal under the law here?
Right.
It was like a miracle in my life.
Hallelujah.
It's a miracle, because when you live under oppression, you think it's normal. I grew up with mosques. Every Friday sermon, they end the Friday prayer with cursing the infidels and non-Muslims. Can you believe they would say, "May God destroy the Jews and the non-Muslims, the enemies of Allah. We are not to befriend them. We are not to make treaties with them. May God orphan their children. May God widow their wives. And they curse and curse and curse. And believe it or not, if you grow up with this kind of preaching, you think it's normal.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was not normal until I came to America.
Right.
And I heard some Christian preaching on TV. Thank God for Christian preaching on TV.
That's right, praise the Lord.
And that's when I said, oh my God, they don't curse.
That's right.
Christians don't curse on TV? Well, that's very civilized.
That's right.
Because that's what I thought. I thought Jews cursed in the synagogues and Christians cursed because that's what I knew.
Right.
And then when I knew the difference and I really learned what I was missing, that's when I said to myself, enough is enough. I went to a mosque first thing when I came to America here, and they told me, don't assimilate in America. We're here to Islamize America. And they told me, why don't you wear your hijab, lady? I said, I don't wear hijab. I never wore this kind of clothes in Egypt.
Right.
Because of the feminist movement in the 20s, my grandmother never wore it. My mother never wore head cover. And I never wore head cover. Nobody in Egypt at that time wore head cover. All the Muslims wore Western clothes.
Right.
And here I am in America being ordered by a mosque, a radical mosque imported to America from Saudi Arabia, Wahhabi Saudi Arabia, ordering me, who wants to come America to be part of America, ordering me not to become American and to wear my hijab and wear it with pride in order to impress America to become Muslim.
Nonie, you have an awesome, awesome story. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things you're doing. I know you're involved in women activist stuff, some of your books, and also what's going on this weekend, Why Israel at the Full Life Assemblies of God Church. We're going to talk about all those things, and we're going to open the phone lines open for a couple of calls, 615-345-9480.